Welcome to the Amanda Hall mini workshop series here on Facebook Live on a Wednesday morning from the Gold Coast. It's an absolutely perfect, wonderful day here, and I'd like to sort of welcome everybody that's joining us here this morning live on the Gold Coast on a Wednesday morning. I hope you had an absolutely awesome week wherever you are in this planet of ours. Let's get some T's and C's out of the road before we start. My name's Amanda Hall, Psychic. I've been in the psychic industry here in Australia for well over 40 years now. Been inducted into the Psychic Hall of Fame, and I've won Psychic of the Year many years in a row. So this is not a show where I give away complimentary or free readings. It's actually a teaching series where we're working with the magic of soy candles, but each week we work with a different topic or subject that relates to the candle in question that we're working with for this week, and I teach you how to work with the intent, purpose and direction. This week we'll be working with a meditation candle. For those of you that aren't familiar with, I have a previous show out of America, out of the Greenville district in South Carolina, just prior to that show here, this show here on Facebook, on A1R Psychic Radio, on Moonstruck TV. That's the Amanda Hall Psychic Show. You're more than happy to join us there at 8 a.m. Gold Coast time or Eastern Standard Time here in Australia. You'll find that in my blurb there, you'll find that there is a catch-up page where all my previous shows are loaded to, and previous workshops are there that you can sort of binge watch them. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody that's joining us here live this morning on this broadcast. We have an absolutely action-packed workshop for you today. This week we're talking about and working with meditation. Now, meditation is one of these unusual sort of words. A lot of people sort of think, oh, yes, look, I've tried that once or twice. I really wasn't able to still my mind. It's one of those things that eludes me, and some people absolutely swear by meditation and other people swear at it. I want to put my hand up and say, look, I was one of those ones that for many years could not meditate to save my life. It was something that was a strange beast to me. I could teach it, I could guide other people through guided meditations, but when I would actually sit down and try and still my mind long enough to actually meditate, it would elude me. And for many years, I jokingly used to say to people when they used to say to me, Amanda, and how do you meditate? And I used to say the following: cup of coffee, cigarette, and John Farnham on the turntable. And people would look at me strange. My cup of coffee was, something that, I'd give myself those few minutes to sit down and drink the coffee. I'd have a quick cigarette when I don't smoke anymore and haven't done for over 20 years. And I would have John Farnham, my favourite singer, on the turntable, and I would make myself sit there for at least one song and lose myself in that song. And I used to jokingly say that's my meditation. And strangely enough, without me really knowing what I was doing, I was actually doing a form of meditation, but I was just calling it that as a joke. And I found out many years later that meditation takes on many different forms. And it's something that it's a very individual process for each and every one of us. I know meditation became hugely popular in the 80s, 90s and heading up to the 2000s, where people frantically raced out and bought every tape and CD that they could find on the subject of meditation, and everybody had a different version of it. They had this beautiful jingle jangle new age music going in the background, but every time I heard that I wanted to punch it or scream. It used to annoy me. It wasn't something that I found relaxing to my nervous system. If anything, it made me irate and cranky, and it takes a lot to get me cranky, I might say. So I found that was probably the first turn off for me. And then the fact, by the time you sat there and they repeated the same thing over and over again, I used to think to myself, I wish you'd hurry up and get to the point. I haven't got all day for this. So again, I found that a frustration. And then they'd start taking you down a staircase or off to a pool in the forest or something like that. And I think, is that all? Like I've already been there 10 minutes ago. I'm off over here now. And I found meditation quite frustrating and quite annoying. And quite often it used to give me a headache. So after purchasing many different tapes in the days of audio cassettes and decided it wasn't for me, I thought, well, maybe I'm just one of those people on the planet that can't meditate. And then as I started to do more and more public stuff with my career and out and doing trade shows and expos and that, a lot of people started telling me the same thing, that they'd tried it back in the 80s and 90s and couldn't understand it or couldn't work with it and didn't feel comfortable sitting on the floor under a pyramid cross-legged in their flowing pants or caftan, and the family thought they were nuts, so it sort of made it even harder for them to try and do this. So they gave it up and never pursued it because they just found it all too difficult. Then there was other people that really embraced meditation and could sit into meditation for hours upon hours on end. And I used to question sometimes, were they really just meditating, or were they really just shutting the world out? Was it an excuse that they didn't have to do anything because they were in this deep meditative state and they couldn't be disturbed? I don't really know that that's the case, but what I'm saying is there was sort of so many different schools of thought, and nobody was particularly right, nobody was particularly wrong. But it became very obvious to anybody in the psychic healing new age industry, if you couldn't meditate, you were frowned upon as being sort of a kook or somebody weird, because everybody can meditate. There's no person on the planet that can't. And they were the sort of stories I used to keep hearing. And from professionals too, to other professionals saying, well, you know, if you can't meditate, then you're not really a psychic. Well, I want to clear that up here and now. There's no law that says you have to meditate to be a psychic or to be intuitive or listen to your inner voice or your gut feeling, or, you know, your sore toe or whatever it is your psychic switch that switches things on for you. It's a very personal thing. And it's something that many people sort of say to me, Amanda, I still struggle with. Now, meditation is actually just stilling the mind. It's not a matter of having to sit there with your favourite CD cross-legged on the floor. It can be simply meditating, looking into a candle. It can be listening to a favourite piece of music, even while you're singing along. If you're stilling your mind and you're not doing anything and you're automatically just singing the words to the song because you know them, they're like part of you, then that's a form of meditation. I think in this very busy time, in this very busy world that we have today, I think we put far too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect at everything. There's no such thing as a perfect meditation. It's the one that's perfect for you. And a couple of years ago now, I did a course with a famous psychic named John Edward, and it was called Project You. And it wasn't that I felt that I was going to learn anything as such from John, even though I have immense respect for the man and his work. It was the opportunity was there and I took it. It was the very first psychic course I'd ever taken in my life. And I'm so pleased I did. I made a point of approaching the course as if I knew nothing about the psychic industry, and each lesson I did a minimum of 3 times. But I suppose one of the most important things that I took out of the work that I did with John during this course, and might I say, most of it was about confirmation for me that I didn't realise that there was another person on the planet that had the same sort of approach to psychic work as I did. I'd always worked solo, even though I've done a lot in my career. Most of my work has been done solo and by myself. I've never had any teachers or anybody that sort of, I've met lots of interesting people along the way and lots of people that have influenced me and guided me in that way, but nobody that's been a physical teacher as such or a trainer of my work. And to be able to sit there and listen to his version of how he developed his psychic ability and what he feels works and how you do this. And one of the lessons was purely on meditation, and that was one of the things that I found most interesting. But going back to working with John's Project You, as I worked through the 90 days of this program, and I might say it took me a bit longer than 90 days because I'd get a little run on and then I'd have a week off because I'd be busy doing work, and I'd come back to it and go back over those previous couple of lessons to catch up to where I wanted to start today. I was able to go through and just go tick, 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 that I felt such a soul connection with this man, that what he believed and what he taught was how I had always, or pretty much how I had always conducted myself throughout my psychic journey. And it was nice to have someone else to sort of, not so much pat you on the back and say you were right, but to have somebody that you had that soul connection with to say, yes, I understand where you're coming from, and I've automatically always worked or handled it in that way. And that was a great confirmation for me. But when we got to the one on meditation, I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of the course, because it was interesting, because he was this man who really, you know, does meditate and is a firm believer in it, and, you know, really practices what he preaches, and sort of talks about the power of meditation and prayer as being a very important part of his work and his journey, to turn around and give you a couple of different examples of how you could meditate quickly. And one of them was actually by staring into the flame of a candle. That by lighting a candle and stilling your mind and just staring into the flame of the candle was a way of meditating. and that only needed to be for a few minutes a day. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing that, you know, I have this amazing range of candles out with 28 of them, and one of them in there is a meditation candle. And that was how I worked with personally my meditation candle. I would just light the candle and just stare into it. And it was something I'd done unconsciously on and off since I developed the meditation candle. Quite often I light that for a few minutes of a morning before I start my busy psychic day, just to still my mind and to sort of ground myself or center myself, whatever you want to put on it. But it was more just a point of focus to sort of, okay, light the candle, stare into it, let everything else go out of your mind that you've got to do for the day. Just be at one with yourself, the energy, still your mind, still yourself, and you know, then you're ready to approach the day, put up your psychic protections and so on. So it was interesting that John sort of taught that as being one of the very fast meditations that you can do, that it's important, it doesn't matter what type of meditation that you do, but that you can meditate in many different forms. And one of the other interesting comments he made was he talked about that, you know, watching a movie, listening to music, losing yourself in your favorite television show is a form of meditation. And I thought, oh, wow. You know, I quite often do things like that. And I've quite often jokingly said to myself, well, I'm going to meditate while I'm going to watch my favorite show or put a movie on the DVD player. And it was my joke. It was sort of like, it was my way of allowing myself, I suppose, the time legitimately to have some downtime without having to feel, oh, I should be doing something, or I should be working, or I should be researching something, or developing something, or writing something. It was my little bit of time that I could give myself a little bit of downtime. So today we're going to work with a meditation candle. So again, I want to welcome everybody that's just joined us. My name's Amanda Hall Psychic. This is a teaching workshop. Each week we have a different word we work with. This week we're up to the meditation word, and we're working with a meditation candle. So I'd like to welcome you. If you'd like to leave your name in the comments box, I will sort of wave to you, say hello to you in the next 48 hours. I will not, under any circumstances, answer any questions other than something that relates to the topic at hand that we're talking about today, which is meditation. I'm happy to answer those questions. I will not, under any circumstances, give you a complimentary reading. As you can appreciate, my time is valuable as yours is. And if I start giving away free readings, I'll never get any work done for anybody that really needs my help. So, and I'm not saying just because you're asking for it for free, you don't need my help, but you've got to appreciate my time is valuable too. And I only work a limited amount of hours a week. I'm not 20 anymore. I need to look after myself and have a life as well. And, you know, for the opportunity to have a complimentary or a free reading, you need to join me on my previous show on A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV here on Facebook Live at 8 a.m. Gold Coast or Eastern Standard Time Australia on a Wednesday morning. I do 2 free readings on that show, but that's the only place, and I stress the only place that I do free readings. So working with a meditation candle. So what we find when we fire up our meditation candle is this candle's got a very subtle fragrance. It's a very gentle fragrance. Can't tell you off the top of my head what's actually in the candle, but if you go to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au, while you're there, join up for the free newsletter. That will enable you to have a free complimentary astrology chart that will be emailed to you anywhere in the world. But if you go, when you're on the main page, you'll see a series of photographs. One of them will say buy a candle. If you press on that button, that will take you directly to the candle page. Then if you scroll through and look for the word meditation, if you go and look up the information on the meditation candle, it will tell you there the fragrances that have been used in the development of the meditation candle for you. So each candle has different fragrances in them that relate to the candle that we're working with. So everything is clearly marked on the actual candle of what's in each candle, so that you know if you don't particularly like the smell of something, then I wouldn't like you to buy a candle that you didn't feel comfortable with the smell just because you want to work with that energy. That's really important too. You have to be comfortable with what it represents, but also the fragrance that's in the candle. Because if you're like me and you don't like the smell of eucalyptus, then trying to work with a eucalyptus candle will just make you feel sick, or you won't want to work with it and you'll avoid it because you don't like it. So it's really important. I mean, for those of you that want to work with the meditation candle, we have meditation candles available on the website www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. So when I'm working with my meditation candle, I have one of these in my office that I light every day, and I light it for a couple of, for about 5 minutes. It's usually about all the time that I can spare. If I happen to be being able to be with it and maybe sort of have the luxury of time of being able to work with it for a little bit longer than 5 minutes, it's a time where I light the candle. Now, these extra large candles have 2 wicks. I light one side one day and one side the next day. This one I put a little bit of sparkly purple glitter in this morning because I thought we needed a bit of sparkle in our life this week. I light one side one day and one side the next day, and I would actually place the candle on a coaster, never directly on the furniture, so always popping it on a coaster, so we've got a layer or a barrier between us and the furniture. So the candle would be on the table, and I would just stare into it, and I would allow the flickering of the flame to just still my mind. Now that's really important because you're taking on board the fragrance of the candle, the energy of the meditation candle itself, but by allowing your mind to be still, you're allowing your thought patterns to just come and go like the ebb and the tide of the ocean. And that's really important too, because meditation isn't always about a nothingness. Meditation can also be a time, because we've stilled the mind, then sometimes we get the best of the best psychic flashes or messages, because we have stilled our mind. We're not thinking about, oh, I've got to pay this bill, and I've got to take the kids to school, and I've got to get something for dinner, and by the way, I've got to make this phone call and that email and that SMS and whatever and whatever. We've just stopped the world. We've stopped the world. We've got off the world train for the moment, and we're just focusing again on staring into our candle. So we're being very peaceful. We're being peaceful in a way that we're stilling our mind. We've blocked the world out for a few minutes. We've taken the phone off the hook, and we're just allowing our mind, our body, and our soul to be. And if you get a message, then can I suggest to you have a piece of paper and a pen next to you, just in case you get something important. You might want to write it down in bullet point form, while you're still holding yourself in that relaxed meditative state as you're staring into the candle at the same time as, out of the corner of your eye, so that when you've decided to put your candle out, that you can actually go back and add the rest of the details of that psychic flash that you had then. But sometimes it's just about nothing. It's just about enjoying the moment of sort of just losing yourself almost in a daydream meditative state. And it is a meditative state where we're just stilling the mind. Sometimes when I'm doing that of a morning, I might put I still have a fetish for John Farnham, I might say. That hasn't gone anywhere. I've admired his singing since I was a very little girl. But sometimes I put him on in the background, or sometimes I'll have one of my other favourite singers, and one of my other ultimate favourite singers that has been my favourite since I was a little girl was David Cassidy as well. So it's usually a toss-up between John or David, but I do have lots of other people that I love to listen to, but they've always been my two ultimate favourites. And my two ultimate favourites, in as much as their music is very different, but I also find that there's very definite hidden messages in their music, and I find it uplifting. And when you do this sort of work, and as I have done for over 40 years, the psychic work, you need to have some way of filling your emotional tanks up as well. Bearing in mind, I deal with a lot of people that are in very crisis sort of situations, have lots of emotions that are running very high and very raw at times, and they don't know how to deal with things. So for me to personally to be able to handle that, I need to be able to put myself into a positive state of mind, that I can become neutral and be able to try and give them the best advice and help, and sometimes just listen to them is all that they need. They just need somebody to offload it to, and other times they're looking for someone to give them, they've offloaded it now, have you got any pearls of wisdom that you can share with me of how to handle this, or which direction I need to be going. So for me personally, I need to have some sort of positive influence in my life to keep myself positive and neutral and grounded, to be able to do my best work. And that's where music and candles have always been a major part of that. Long before I developed a candle range, I always, and I stress always, in my 40-odd year career have worked with candles. Ever since I first started, I've always had a fascination with candles ever since I was a little girl, and fires. Surprisingly enough, I could sit there and look at an open log fire for hours and see lots of magical things in it and imagine different things and whatever. And I think that was probably the first point of me really starting to focus and hone my psychic ability, even as a little girl of 2 and 3, was focusing on the flames of the fire and imagining I could see things or people or outlines of animals in there. And I think that was the beginning of my psychic journey. I truly do. But getting back to the topic at hand, which is meditation. So even if you don't have my meditation candle and you don't wish to purchase one, any candle will do. The difference with having one of my soy candles is soy is a renewable resource where we're not using petrochemicals, which is in most normal household grade candles, is petrochemicals. So it's kinder on the environment. We work with lead-free wicks. We also work with the score of that you cannot put an essential oil into a candle. I know people claim that they do, and people say, oh, I wouldn't burn anything other than an essential oil. Well, let me assure you, essential oils cannot be placed into a candle because their ignition rate is too high. If you put an essential oil into a candle, you'll actually get an explosion. The candle will explode and catch on fire. So anybody that tells you that they do put essential oils in there, I would really question that, because they need to be a fragrance oil and they have to be at a point where when the candle's not going to explode. So there's lots of research and homework and things that go into candle production. And I was fortunate enough to work with an artisan candle maker who initially started making my candles for me. Now we've taken over production of them, where the candles are all infused with intent, purpose and direction. So if the label on the candle says meditation, it has already been infused with the energy in its production of meditation to help and enhance your experience of meditation, to make it an easier process. And each fragrance, each color has been chosen specifically for those reasons for the candle that we are producing. There was a lot of research and a lot of thought went into this, and also I believe a lot of divine intervention at what needed to go into a candle and why we needed to make it in a certain way so that we would get the best out of it. So for those people that haven't, as I said, got a meditation candle, that's fine. If you've got a cupboard full of candles, use those first. I'm about using our resources we have first, even if they are petrochemical. You know, use them up first. Why waste what you've already invested money in or been given as a gift? And if for all else fails and you haven't got a lot of money and you've got some household grade white candles in the drawer for a blackout, then use those. There's been many times in my life, I can assure you, where I didn't have a lot of money and I've resorted to using white household grade candles. And what I've done in those instances is I've held the candle tightly, I've closed my eyes, and I've tried to manifest into the candle the energy that I'm working with. And I might have stroked it, I might have patted it, and then when I've gone to light it, I've said out aloud, this is my meditation candle. This will be a candle I will use only for meditation. So that just gives you a few options. So that's our extra large candle that we've been talking about this morning. We also have a travel kit. Now, this is for people that might say to me, look, Amanda, I'd like to take something to work, or I want to take something when I'm going away, or I just want something to give as a little gift. We've made up a box of what we call our travel or gift box set. Now, in that this week, I have 3 meditation candles, but at the checkout, you are able to make up your set of any 3 candles that you wish. So this makes it an economical way of buying candles or starting out working with my candle range, is that you can choose any 3. You will get a burn time up to about 15 hours of these. Any candle that we work with, please be mindful, not under an open window, under air conditioning or fans, never around children and pets. Always make sure you stay with your candle. It is fire, and we need to be mindful of that. We never should leave a candle unattended. So that's our gift box set. Then we have, for those people that don't want to or can't work with a flame, you can pick up a melt warmer at your local supermarket or department store. Here in Australia, they retail for around about $15. These have a little electric button on the side. They have a little dish on the top. So when you're starting to work with your melt warmer, take 2 teaspoons of your soy wax out of your candle, place it into your melt warmer. Then what I want you to do, you can still use your usual principles. This, you can put your meditation wax in there and have this going all day. You don't have to sit with it. And that's the beauty of a melt warmer. It works a little bit like an old-fashioned oil burner, where we used to put the tea light candle underneath. These are electric these days. No water is required, just the 2 teaspoons of the soy wax, half a teaspoon a day. When you need to change the wax, just pop it in the freezer, a little tray in the freezer for about a minute or two. Take it out. You can then run a plastic knife underneath it, remove the wax discarded in the rubbish, and then you can wash it up in hot soapy water, and then you're ready to start again with a new fragrance. So I quite often use my melt warmers. I have one of these in my office where I have my protection wax going. I add an extra half a teaspoon a day each day to it, and I have one out in my main living area with whatever the energy is I'm working with this week. So I hope this has helped you understand how meditation doesn't need to be scary. It doesn't need to be something that takes hours. It's something that can be done for a couple of minutes at a time, or 5 to 10 minutes, or hours if you want it to be. It's something that we can all do in our lives, and we probably already do it without realizing it when we're going to watch our favorite show, or we're watching a Netflix or something like that, that we are actually doing a form of meditation then. It's a matter of stilling the mind. So on next week's workshop, we'll be working with the new moon in Aquarius, so I hope you can join us then. For those of you that like to make a purchase of a candle or book a reading with me, my name's amandahallpsychic.com.au. When you join up for our free newsletter, you will get a free astrology chart emailed to you anywhere in the world. When you're at the checkout, type in the word Facebook in capital letters and you will receive a discount. We do offer free postage here in Australia on any purchases from our store. And for those of you that are our overseas family, we can't offer you free postage, but what we can do is offer a flat fee of postage. So if you're looking to make more than one purchase, save your pennies up, make them all in one go, because it doesn't matter how much you purchase, it will be one flat fee in anywhere in the world, other than Australia where we offer free postage. So I hope you have a great week. Until next week, I look forward to joining you again then. Don't forget, check out the little blurb that tells you where our page is set up for our workshops and radio shows, where you can binge watch and catch up on the previous ones. Until next week, bye for now.